So the Mavs lose 115 to 114. I don't want to make it sound like this game wasn't close because obviously it was close throughout. It was very close at the end of the fourth quarter, but it didn't come down to a last-second shot. That Kyrie last-second shot you heard made it 115-114 as opposed to 115-111. We can talk about the game. If that's what you guys want to focus in on, we definitely can. But
PJ had an interesting night with points, getting to the basket, doing his thing. He didn't. The 3-point shooting wasn't the greatest last night.
Sure,
that wasn't. That wasn't
you can
great.
say that about the whole team, but yes, that is factually accurate.
Yeah. So and then you're just missing that guy still. You're missing a couple of pieces of your team.
And that's what I wanted to talk about.
Reality.
Although I know if Mike was here, he'd want to point out that he's infuriated that Kessler Edwards got 15 minutes because
he doesn't know his name.
Yeah,
still.
he's like, I don't know who that is. Is his name Kessler?
You're missing half your starters.
Okay, now that is a great point because one of the things that Jason Kidd said, well, he talked a lot yesterday about the possibility of hey, trying to ramp up Dereck Lively and getting him good to go. But what he said at the very end, I thought was really fascinating because yesterday when we found out about the Dereck Lively injury, which, by the way, has already kind of changed from what Sharanya said yesterday. So Sharanya said it was a fracture in the foot, out 2 to 3 weeks. Now it sounds like the Mavericks, and obviously I will take their word for it, they believe it's a stress fracture in his right ankle. And it's going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks. Now, that's not to say he'll be back in 4 weeks because that will not happen. Reevaluated. So
did the bone heal?
Exactly. I'm not disputing the 2 to 3 month time frame. It was just interesting. We kind of bounced from foot injury to ankle injury, concerning nonetheless. But while we talked about yesterday, does this mean you need to make a trade? Do you need to win some of these games like Minnesota? Do you just want to see them naturally tank because they're without so many of their players? Jason Kidd had this to say, and I think this makes a lot of sense. I don't think we're looking at the standings. We're trying to figure out who can put on a uniform and go from there.
Yep.
And that is a staggering task. Like you pointed out, the Mavericks had, I believe, 8 players who were questionable. And as we went on into the game, at least 6 that were out. And that's just tough to plan against because Clay was out with left ankle. We just talked about why Lively's out. Clearly, Dante Exum's been out the entire season, although he was, again, shooting some before the game. If you're looking for positive injury news, Kyrie was there, but we've been talking about that. Luka is still out. So, you have been decimated by injuries, which seems to be kind of what we've been talking about for the Cowboys all season too.
It's a tough thing to overcome, and that's why Mike is so down right now. Maybe Mike is out today because of the Mavs and their whole situation. I can see that, but
I can't rule it out.
That's why he's it's just if you aren't in the playoffs, it's a lost season. Honestly, it is really a lost season. I hope that the team continues to play for the playoffs because I want to see the team in the playoffs. A lot of people are like, look, if you can't even win the championship, then it's a lost season. Now, hold on. Getting the playoffs does give you a chance to be there. You have this full team together, it's lethal. It's a real contender when it's there. I don't know how healthy Luka and Lively will be on that run, but they could be the healthiest they've been all year and in great shape and ready to rock with fresh legs. They also could be dying because they're not conditioned for it. But right now is tough. And that's what Jason Kidd has to think is, I'm just trying to get a team together at the moment. Bochy had that feeling last year too. I'm just trying to get guys out on the field that are healthy. I got plans to win games. It's just we got to make sure we can keep a team together for a minute.
So I continue to look at it like this. And everything Cory said is factually accurate. If Luka comes back at the All-Star break, naturally that's going to give you a bump up. If Dereck Lively,
I'm not saying rely on that.
Yeah.
But that's what the hope is. That's the only real hope there.
If Dereck Lively came back at the end of the regular season or the beginning of the playoffs and Kyrie is still good to go and Luka's back there and obviously Gaffer's been playing really well, then you're like, hey, let's roll. I don't care if we are on the play-in or not. But then I look at it from the other perspective. I'm like, hey, you're a game and a half out of even missing the play-in, and you can reasonably get to the 9th worst record in the NBA without trying to tank at all, just because Kyrie is going to have some issues throughout. Kyrie is a tough dude, but you can't say that you have a disc issue in your back and you're going to be like, I'm fine. Like, you're going to have some ebbs and flows. No matter how careful he is with it, you're going to have some ebbs and flows. Best case scenario, Dereck Lively's back for what? The last 5 games of the regular season? We probably still won't see Luka for like another 7 games. You don't have to want to tank anything. It will take care of itself no matter how hard you play. And as you pointed out, PJ Washington is playing really damn hard. Daniel Gafford has been putting up some amazing numbers. And I have no doubt that everyone on the team is playing their ass off, and it still might not make a difference.
One of the other things, too, that we just don't know yet because we're in the infancy of the governorship of this franchise. We don't know what ownership expects and wants and is demanding from Nico.
True.
Like I feel like Nico and Kidd have a firm grasp on what their job is, and they're very strong at the top of this thing. But if the ownership comes to you and goes, "Hey, look, we're just going to tank this. Do your best to do that," or "No, go make the moves to go win this thing, whatever it takes." That's 2 different directions that you can take a cue from ownership. So we have no clue what their. It sounds like they want to win.
Okay, you're right. I don't know this to be a fact whatsoever. I was just going to throw out my opinion. I think the Adelson family bought this team as a turnkey operation where they're like, hey, you do.
They're into leverage something.
You do whatever you need to do. I'm here to, well, first of all, sports teams have inherently been profitable. I don't want to rule that out. But also,
I think they wanted to get on the ground floor of gambling in Texas.
Exactly. That's what I think. And so I'm not saying that I don't think the Adelsons care about if they win, because obviously the more the Mavericks win, the more home playoff games they're going to get, the more natural profit that will come in with ticket sales and everything like that. But I think they bought it as a turnkey where they're like, hey, this has been making money pretty consistently. The values of NBA franchise have been going up pretty consistently. You just do whatever you do to make that keep happening, while we get in on the ground floor, as you said, Cory, to get gambling legalized in the state of Texas. I think that's the far bigger play. So honestly, I don't mean this as a cop-out. I'm not trying to be like, I don't know what they're going to do. I think that ownership doesn't have a strong stance about you need to go make a trade and you need to go win versus, what can you do?
Dude, I've never really looked into this. Have you ever, we've talked about kiosks at Globe Life Field.
Sure.
And AT&T. And a lot, like if you go look at Texas Live, you can start putting slot machines. You can look around and go, yep, slot machine goes right across that wall. Like it makes sense. Have you ever looked into Allegiant Stadium and what they have going on there?
No, I don't think I. Oh yeah, no, I have not.
They have a betting lounge. They have a betting lounge at the stadium. They have kiosks.
I think the Atlanta Hawks might have something similar. There are definitely other stadiums that have stuff like that.
The atmosphere,
I love it.
Yeah, and it's the gambling aspect. Whether you bet one, or use your phone, it can all be done right there. That's wild to me that in an NFL stadium, they're like, yeah, we can go ahead and pop these in there. But we see that as the future. And if the Adelsons wanted to look at something and say, okay, Texas has legalized gambling, they would say, okay, get this new arena up. Get whatever new arena up so we can go ahead and start loading all these kiosks in here.
Look, and I still think we're going to get to the point where that's going to be something that incentivizes people to go to the games. Like, as much as we've talked about, like you've heard Jerry say like 80 bajillion times, only 6 or 7% of people have ever been to an actual NFL game. I got it. But same in all the other sports, why you want to encourage people to get there, having that gambling lounge, or perhaps finding a workaround where you can only gamble at these specific destination casinos or arenas. I definitely think that is something that could be on the table.